Welcome again to another lecture in language planning and policies in education. Today, we are looking at types of language planning. There are initially three different types of language planning. The first one to consider is the issue of status planning. And therefore, the first thing to go for in this lesson is to look at what status planning is all about. This is the allocation or reallocation of a language or variety to functional domains within a society. So you allocate a language or you allocate languages to functional domains in a particular society. You are giving such languages some kind of position. This affects the status or the standing of a language in view of other languages in the society. Now, to continue on that one, let's consider Hens and Close and Williams Stewart in 1968. 1968, Hens Close and William Stewart consider four qualities that determine language status. And these qualities, which typically determine language status, are 1. Language origin. This language origin is whether a given language is indigenous or imported to the speech community. Now, the other one is degree of standardization. That's the second one. This degree of standardization is about the extent of development of a formal set of norms or rules that define correct usage of a language. Standardization here entails that the language must be properly developed in terms of its grammar, lexis, phonology, etc. These have to be properly developed and become acceptable in terms of reaching the standards that are demanded. Then we have the third one, which is juridical status. Juridical status has something to do with the law, has something to do with acceptance by the law. Therefore, a sole official language has to be authenticated and be given an okay by law, that is by the Constitution, to say this is the language for this purpose, and that will designate its status. For example, French as a language in France is the official language. Turkish as a language in Turkey is an official language. At a local level, we have English as an official language for Malawi. And so, you can provide as many examples as you can. Then we have the joint official language. This is where you have two or more languages occupying the same status and having the same function. For example, English and Afrikaans in South Africa. These two languages occupy the same official status, so they have the joint official language status in South Africa. In Switzerland, the same joint official language status is occupied by French as a language, German as a language, Italian as a language, and Romansh as a language in Switzerland. Now, let's come down to regional official languages or regional official language. This is about the languages that has been destined to be authentic for a particular region, that is by law. A typical example is Igbo in Nigeria. Igbo is a language that is authorized to be used in a particular region in Nigeria. And a similar case is true for Marathi in India. Marathi is a language that is officially authenticated for Maharashtra region in India. And so we can talk about many languages that have the regional official status level right in Africa here. For example, at a local level, you can take northern region of Malawi, where you have Chitumbuka, which is considered as a regional language by manner of its use. It covers the whole of northern region. Then you have promoted language. That is a promoted language. Or the promoted language, this is a language that lacks official status on a national or regional level, but is promoted and sometimes used by public authorities for a specific function or for specific functions. For example, you have Spanish as a promoted language in New Mexico. You have the Pidgin English in Cameroon, West Africa, as a promoted language. So the promotion of a language here is by functional purposes. So you use it for certain functions, but for the other functions, you use different languages. That's where you have the status of promoted languages. Let's get to tolerated language. Tolerated language is neither promoted nor proscribed. It is actually acknowledged but ignored in some cases. For example, the Native American languages in the United States are used because they are tolerated. But for certain functions, they are ignored. That is where we have the status of tolerated languages. In Malawi, at a local level example, you have the vernacular languages which are tolerated. If you get down into the city of Muzuzu, you find that people are speaking in Swahili. And nobody is arrested because of speaking in Swahili, which means Swahili is tolerated. People in the market speaking in Yawo language, they are never abused, which means they are tolerated. The language is tolerated. And not to talk about Chitumbuka. It's so common and popular in Mzuzu. Now, let's have a proscribed language, which is the last in this chain. A proscribed language is a language that is discouraged by official sanction or restriction. Officially, it is not allowed. For example, you have Macedonian language in Greece, which is actually proscribed. It is discouraged by law. And then you have Galician, Basque, and Catalan languages in Spain. These were proscribed during the Francisco Franco's regime. Now, let's consider the issue of language vitality. Language vitality here, this one. What does language vitality refer to? What does it imply in our studies? Language vitality refers to the ratio or percentage of users of a language to another variable, like the total population. That is, how many language users are there vis-a-vis the total population. The greater the number of users, the higher the vitality. The lower the number of the users of the language, the lower the vitality. Close and Stewart suggest 6 classes of vitality. And this is 6 classes of vitality statistical distribution. And how do they appear? Take note that the presentation in terms of figures have a lot of explanation rather than the way they appear in the table. Let's look at close suggestions of vitality, and it goes as follows. On the table here, 90% and above represents the highest vitality. 70 to 89% represents the second highest vitality. Then 40 to 69% represents the third highest vitality. Then 20 to 39% represents the fourth highest vitality. Then 3 to 19% represents the fifth highest vitality. Then less than 3% represents lowest vitality. Now, let's look at Stewart's vitality, and it goes as follows. Again, look at the table.